He didn't know. He fell asleep through the whole
I
thing.
know.
It's about
That was the
robots.
test.
I was awake for the first 30, 40-minute kick-ass part of the movie. Then I fell asleep after that. Nah, I mean, it's Iron Man. What do people want to know? Because really, seriously,
No,
I mean, this
I
movie
know.
could be about anything.
That would have been my synopsis. Well, it's about Iron Man, and this time there's two of them.
It's just like Iron Man, but two.
but there's two instead of one.
Yes, the
A
Ebony and
bunch of,
Ivory version of
drone
Iron Man.
He fights a bunch of tin men.
That was a missed opportunity, to be fair. Because, you've got James Rhodes playing War Machine and Tony Stark as Iron Man. Yeah, they totally should have had a party at the end of the movie where they do Ebony and Ivory. That would have been awesome.
Iron Man 2 Electric
Or
Boogaloo.
at the very least, silver and gold.
Hey, they could have posed as Miami Vice cops.
Yeah,
I mean, let's just run through all the black and white cliches.
I agree with that. No, he should have played Ebony.
We don't have all night, Leon.
No, Ebony and Ivory were at the blowing up shit. I mean, because that's what it could have been called, Iron Man 2, blowing up shit.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's what people
Yeah, it
really
was.
want to see.
But-
So does it really matter what we have to say? Well, for me, it does. So I'm going to speak my piece here.
And anyone who knows Corey knows that you're going to have to hear his point.
Exactly. Don't cut that shit off yet. No, you listen to me.
Gotta make it real. Everybody know.
Nah, everybody kick in, get comfortable. This could be a while.
Well, in this is Iron Man 2. And in the first Iron Man, we have Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, who is this genius, famous industrialist whiz kid. And that was his origin story about how he became Iron Man. Now with this one, we're full-fledged Iron Man here, and we're given a bigger villain. What's his name?
A homeless guy.
Yeah. No.
With bling.
Are you
guy
talking about
from
Whiplash or Justin Hammer?
Well, we're going to get to that in a little bit, but we're going to go with the real super villain here, which is Whiplash.
Gary Shandling, the senator that wants to take the armor away from him.
Well, it's funny because Gary Shandling and Mickey Rourke are starting to look kind of alike.
That's true.
No, we get Whiplash, who looks very different from the comic book. It looks like a guy who turned 50 and couldn't get out that Jersey Shore look.
He looks like he's on his way to a rave or something.
Yeah.
with his glow whips.
He couldn't he couldn't decide whether he wanted to be like the club kid or the rap kid.
And he failed miserably on both of them.
I know. He still has that hair from the wrestler left over.
Yeah, it's somebody just too scared to tell him to cut that shit. No, in this we have Mickey Rourke playing Ivan Vlenko, a Russian guy who was somehow, we won't go into it, but feels like he was wrong not only by Tony Stark, but by Tony Stark's legacy. His father, his past has somehow done something to him, and he's out for some kind of revenge. And then we get other
And you
people.
can tell he's a genius by the fact he's covered head to toe in tattoos, has a bunch of gold teeth, and
I know.
and just says so much smart things that he's the one guy in the world who can manufacture from scratch Stark tech.
I think each test he passed, like going to school, he got a tat for each test.
Maybe that's where the blueprints are, or that's what those tattoos are.
I know, because in the movie, they kind of hint that he was exiled somehow to Siberia through circumstances. And it's like, in Siberia, they ain't got shit. So it's like the moment he got like to some civilization, he didn't give it. He made up for it. He got tattoos all over his body, dyed his hair, bought the craziest clothes he could find, got him some gold teeth, and just went to town. But
he's like that chick that goes to downtown for the first time and just he's like drunk and gets tattooed.
Oh, he's like that ugly chick that goes to downtown.
Yeah, because if he was a chick, he'd be one ugly chick.
He does.
He's not a pretty man.
Well, it's the facelifts that make him look like a chick.
Yeah,
make him look like an Asian chick, as a matter of fact.
With that hair and everything, he does kind of look like that ugly chick. You just like be wasted at the end of the night. And you're like, okay, let's go. But be funny. You take that chick home and you wake up and it's Mickey Rourke.
Tell me more about that, Corey.
You're making this a confessional.
And
you keep saying you.
Yeah.
And we all know who you're talking about.
And that wouldn't be funny, by the way. That would be horrifying.
I find this more interesting than the review right now.
Please continue. What else does you do?
You have never fucked Mickey Rourke. No, I don't know what you're talking about. No, but
wow.
That's just one of the villains that we have here. Now, for the others,
in ascending order of danger.
Well, Tony Stark, he's facing things from the political end and also from another industrialist guy, Justin Hammer. And everybody wants his technology either because they think it's a threat as a weapon or they think that it could help them get on top.
So he's got the government, he's got Whiplash, he's got Justin Hammer, and he's got his own health.
I was going to say, you're forgetting about the biggest villain of all. Tony Stark himself. Not death.
Oh, sorry. Hey, You consider Tony Stark a bigger villain than
Well,
Death?
if you watch the whole middle of this film, which I can understand if you missed large parts of it by taking naps, because not a lot happens. I'm not saying you were. I'm just saying I wouldn't blame you if you had. The movie's all about him just sort of not knowing what the hell to do and fucking up and getting drunk and being kind of a loser.
Well, you are true. There is another villain in this movie. Or no, maybe villain is harsh. There is another opposing factor here, and it is Tony Stark being somewhat self-destructive. Half of it is because he just doesn't care, because he feels like his life might be over soon, and the other half is that they hint that he might be having a drinking problem, which everybody who reads the comics knows that Tony Stark is an alcoholic. They don't really they don't say alcoholic in this movie. They just try to bring that element in.
I thought they kind of shoehorned that whole thing in, to be honest.
It was more like they piggybacked it. They just well, he's kind of self-destructive anyway, and we'll just make him having a party where he goes too far. Part of it, which, Fatty Arbuckle, the ghost of Fatty Arbuckle would be like, dude, stop, get these people out of here, don't do this.
Right. Hey, dude, you really fucked up. Quit driving that car in the middle of this huge fucking crowd.
They obviously don't want to do the serious alcoholic story, and you can't blame them, for not wanting to do that. And this is as close as they wanted to get to it. But even so, it felt like kind of a cop-out. It was like, wow, this is just, you're making him just kind of a pussy instead of having a real serious drinking problem like you did in the comic. And I'm not sure how to feel about this. He's just irritating me at this point.
Well, what's interesting is the movie opens up with him. He's like arrogant to the max, to where like, okay, I know this guy's the protagonist and he's funny, but he is kind of an asshole, and I want to be on his side, but I'm not sure I like him anymore.
Yeah, maybe he's too much of an asshole at this point. When the first film, you're like, he's that likable prick. He's that guy who's going to be jokey. He's going to maybe even make fun of you a little bit, but he's still going to save your ass and pay for all the hookers and blow.
Right.
Yeah.
You know that guy. You know that guy that Bruce Wayne becomes when he wants to get people the fuck out of his house when he's done with a party. He became that guy.
That's really him.
That was him for real, not him playing around.
Oh yeah, no, it's like I think they made a mistake by saying, oh, everybody likes this really cocky Tony Stark because hey, Robert Downey Jr. plays it well, and they kind of took a little bit too far in this one.
Even so, there are points that it was really working where it felt like it was a sort of like superhero James Bond, and I was really enjoying that. The jet setting, going to giant parties, like just awesome lifestyles. Like, hell yeah, I'm on board with this guy. But then he'd turn around to someone and he'd be like, fuck you, I'm Tony Stark, I do what I want.
Yeah, he kind of was. I mean, he really became that rich prick that you hate.
No,
I don't touch people. I don't let people get close to me.
Which is not...
Put that fucking box of strawberries in my car. Hurry up, I got to play with you.
Yeah, it was that. Yeah, he had that whole, I don't touch people thing.
Yeah.
I mean, but one thing I thought was interesting, like they showed, footage of his dad, Howard Stark, where they kind of make him a mix between Howard Hughes and Walt Disney.
Yeah, he does look like that. That's true.
Yeah,
I mean, that was always kind of like the deal in the comics. They hinted that he was kind of a Howard Hughes type, because even Tony Stark was based on Howard Hughes when he was created. So they just took it all the way. And it's John Slattery from Mad Men who plays his dad.
Yeah. I have some really major complaints from this movie, and let me just say first, all these people who said that this movie was terrible, unwatchable, was a failure, that's not true. I mean, this movie has a great beginning. I think, like I said, the first 30 or 40 minutes of this movie is what we want to see in both Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark and in an Iron Man movie, because we get a lot of Iron Man scenes too. And after this really bad scene, and I thought it was kind of bad. It could have been cool, but it was a bad scene where Don Cheadle as Rhodey Rhodes comes in.
Jim Rhodes.
Rhodey Rhodes? What is this, a Warner Brothers cartoon?
Well, you can call him Rhodey Rhodes. You just got to put it in quotes.
Yeah.
There you go, Rhodey Rhodes. When he comes in, he puts on the Iron Man suit just out of nowhere. Doesn't know how to work it, doesn't know what to do. And then they come in and they do this real bad fighting song and dance number while they're playing a remix of DJ AM from DJ, some crazy remix of some club mix in the background, and I thought like, wow, this is where the movie's kind of dipping low, and then the movie got kind of dull. I mean, I mean, I don't know what was going on. I don't know. It was because I don't want to blame the movie for talking, because I don't want to see just action going on, but there was a lot of unnecessary dialogue going on. I think this is what I believe. This is a good movie that suffers from what we see over and over with a lot of sequels, where you have that origin story, which is so great because they know exactly what to do with that. That second film, they don't really know what to do, so they put in a little bit too much.
Yeah.
Also, what they do a lot of times with sequels is they remake the first movie, and this isn't necessarily a remake, but it's so much of the same of what we've seen before that there's not a lot of surprises. I mean, I still think this is a good movie, and I enjoyed it, But there are all those problems, and one of the problems of sequelitis that this movie has to me is too many characters. Because as much as everybody's excited about seeing Samuel Jackson as Nick Fury, I'm like, to me, I was like, you could take him out of this movie and it'd be better. Matter of fact, it'd be more time to develop Mickey Rourke's character.
Yeah, you're only saying that because you're still hoping there won't be an Avengers film. So you won't owe me $50.
They shove it down our throats every time. They hijack the movie. They hijack part of the story just to shove in like, hey, but we got the Avengers coming up. It's like, don't do a commercial in the middle of this movie.
Yeah. I completely agree. Even though I found the film to be a fun film to watch, it's definitely a summer film. But yeah, it suffers from just there's too many cameos and too many hints of the Avengers films where they kind of bash you over the head with it. And I'm like, especially introducing this Black Widow character where I'm like, you know what, this could have worked if they just took out all the elements of Nick Fury and his team. If they would have took that out and just made it a surprise as far as Scarlett Johansson's character, as far as when she actually suits up, if they just had that in there without explaining to you that she was part of a team and like having those scenes where she's sitting down with Samuel Jackson, I thought it would have been more effective for a character. You would have been more excited than them just telling you exactly explaining to you every bit of this whole Avengers subplot that really doesn't have anything to do with the Iron Man movie.
Right.
If they would have been more subtle, it would have been more exciting. But yeah, there's a lot of characters that they do throw in here, and I had the biggest problem was that scene that you just described, Corey, where they have Rhodes just throwing on the suit with no real explanation. He just throws it on.
In fact, later on, they even give the movie a chance to explain itself, and they don't. And it makes me feel like there was a scene missing because they point blank, ask Tony Stark, what's the deal, dude? You just leave them open, the suits, with anyone can get in, and he doesn't say anything. And
it seems like he's about to give an explanation, but then he just kind of skirted around it. But it's that scene that, that's how I felt like, you know what? This whole scene right here, it seems like they're shoehorning two important plots that could be a whole nother story, which is Tony Stark's alcohol problem and the whole Rhodes character becoming a war machine.
And something, you were so right about all that Avengers stuff. As excited I was to see them give hints of the Avengers in the movie, I wanted to see it be introduced in a clever way.
Right.
This is not clever. This is marketing.
It is. And you know what? And I honestly felt like Samuel Jackson was really just phoning it in.
Boy, was he ever.
I mean, wow.
He emailed it in.
I can't disagree with what you're saying, but at the same time, as a big geek looking forward to the Avengers movie, I was still happy to see that stuff anyway. I mean, I admit, a lot of it did seem phoned in, and even why isn't this just in the Avengers movie instead of being here?
Yeah.
But especially the surprise post-credits ending thing where you're like, really? I sat through the credits for that?
Okay, were we all underwhelmed by that scene?
Yeah.
Yes.
To say the least.
There's a lot of bad stuff I could say about that's for another time. I will say that we haven't said shit about what's good about this movie, and I know none of us are giving it a rental or some old bullshit.
So
let's talk about what we liked about it.
Well, like I said,
barely mentioned that.
I did say that the first 40 minutes. I mean, I went into detail about what I liked about it because it's really just the first 40 minutes and the climax that I like, and even then, the climax is kind of silly.
I think the climax beats the crap out of the opening. Personally, I thought the climax was the climax that we wanted in the first film.
You're right about that.
That should have happened, and you were like, wow, that was it. That wasn't as cool as the other stuff in the first film. And then here you're like, I was getting worried the middle was so slow. I was going, man, this thing is dropping rating points by the second until all of a sudden it goes, oh yeah, I forgot we're making an Iron Man movie, and switches totally into fifth gear. The last 30 minutes of this movie rocks totally.
Yeah, it's like the director fucking opened up a can of Mountain Dew and finally he decided to do something badass and extreme.
Man, it's amazing ending action sequence, and most importantly, there's almost no chemistry between the characters through this movie. Like that Pepper Potts, Tony Stark chemistry in the first movie, not here at all. It's just irritating. It's like watching a bad Robert Altman film, the way they keep talking over each other. But then when you get to the end, suddenly that chemistry is there with James Rhodes and Tony Stark, where you're like fighting them, watching them fight side by side and trading barbs, and it's funny and awesome and makes the whole movie worth it.
That's very true, but for me at least, it was a little too late. It's funny now that I'm honestly really thinking about this movie, and I wish there was a lot of this movie just cut out, because I had the biggest problem I had with this movie is every single character is so goddamn smarmy. I mean, every bit of dialogue in this film, it's like, they're yucking it up. I mean, it felt like nobody was really taking anything that was going on all that serious.
Well, they are in a comic book. So.
You know what? I think I know what you're talking about. because I liked it throughout the movie. Even the slow parts, they didn't bother me so much because I like the interplay between characters, and they were jokey, a little bit too much sometimes. But it's in the climax, that last 30 minutes, where they're still doing the joking around, and it suddenly takes away the feeling of consequences to everything that happened. Because there should have been a huge body count in what happens. Like, a lot of innocent people should have been killed. And they were like cracking jokes and like, well, we're okay.
No, you're right about that. Maybe that's why I found that ending silly. First of all, as you said, that 10-man stuff. There's a lot of cool visuals as far as what makes sense with that scene, or is there any real chemistry? Well, maybe there's a little bit too much because they don't seem to be scared at all. No. I mean, it's like, damn, Tony Stark is a little just too confident. I mean, even the moment that for example. It's only in that last 30 minutes that we do get that chemistry between people.
You're right.
Say with Don
James Rhodes
and Tony Stark, and then that whole thing with Gwyneth Paltrow, wasn't it Pepper Potts in this? So I loved it in that first movie, the kind of dialogue they had.
Oh yeah, it was great.
And they did that in a little bit of this movie, but it's at the end that they really brought that spark back, and it's only after Tony Stark gets through fighting all these robots and he comes in and says, "Hey, how you doing? I saved you again."
It's like one of those, like, look, I'm gonna fuck somebody because I just did all this, and you're here.
But there are those things there. I mean, there are those relationships. Gwyneth Paltrow returns as a character that we like, and that we like the relationship between them. That's good. Don Cheadle comes in and is a great replacement for.
See, I was just gonna say, like, I guess you guys don't agree with me, but I thought Terrence Howard was better. I really felt more with him than with Don Cheadle.
I think, but you know why? Probably because Terrence Howard had more to do in the first movie.
Yeah, it was a better written part in the first one. Yeah. But I'd say as an actual performance of what he had to do, I like Cheadle better.
Yeah, I don't know.
Don't give Terrence Howard any ideas.
I have nothing against Terrence Howard. I just like Don Cheadle. When I say replacement, I don't mean that Terrence Howard is a bad actor. I'm saying, Don Cheadle came in and he didn't mess anything up. He replaced that part. I mean, you really
he drove the suit just fine.
Yeah, he did. I mean, you expect somebody to come in and it is kind of it's off-putting when you see somebody who's playing another character.
Right.
And Terrence Howard did play that character well. Yeah. So you're thinking like Don Cheadle, you're not going to be able to accept this guy because we remember Terrence Howard too much. Well, Don Cheadle did a good enough job to where it's like, okay, I can accept this.
And he's so well spoken.
I think of him. It's terrible. It's terrible, sir. I think of him as like the Val Kilmer when Val Kilmer took over Batman. I liked his Bruce Wayne, but I really didn't care too much for his Batman. He was just kind of there in the suit, and that's kind of how I felt with Don Cheadle. So.
Now let's talk about Mickey Rourke in this because I thought Mickey Rourke, I thought he was great as a villain. He came in because he did the accent well.
Sure.
Of course, I don't know any Russian.
I don't think it matters if you could because you couldn't understand what he was saying. No. So much it was.
Well, he was speaking a lot of Russian.
A lot of times it was Russian, but then I go like, wait, I heard an English word in there.
You come from a family of thieves and butchers, and now, like all guilty men, you try to rewrite your own history. And you forget all the lives the Stark family has destroyed.
Speaking of thieves, where did you get this design?
My father, Anton Uncle.
Well, I never heard of him.
My father is the reason you're alive.
The reason I'm alive is because you had a shot you took and you missed.
Did I?
This is the way he talks.
His lips are finally melting.
He probably don't know Russian.
Hey, Leon, he fooled my ass because honestly, I thought he was like the strongest element to this movie as far as like somebody
I can't agree with that.
Now,
all he did was glower. He just like, he was a plot device. He wasn't even a character.
But I thought he was his own character where I didn't think he was popping off jokes like everyone else in the film, and he seemed to have some kind of real motivation. And I actually liked his character in the film. Shockingly enough, I was expecting him to be just a throwaway character.
I really liked his character in the movie, and that's my problem. I thought like I said, I thought his accent was great. I thought he had some real motivation, as you say. I felt like he was really pissed off at Tony Stark, and he was intimidating because of that. Now the problem with that is he's an intimidating guy. They put his ass in a lab for the middle of the movie.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. He's behind a computer for most of it.
He disappears. They go talk to Samuel Jackson and Scarlett Johansson. All this other stuff is going on. And by the time they got back to him, I was like, oh, I forgot he was in this.
Well, and even then, anytime he actually is there to fight, he's kind of a pussy. He's not really much of a threat. He looks like a threat, but then they're like, boom, you're down.
He's a threat at first because they're just so like, what the fuck is this?
But you know what? Can you say that? Can you really complain all that much about his character? Because I mean, I thought that was kind of the same problem with Tony Stark, or at least Robert Downey Jr.'s role, as far as you see him as Iron Man like the first like 30, 40 minutes, but after that, it's pretty much a Tony Stark movie until the end.
I think the best character in this film, though, is definitely Scarlett Johansson. Don't you think?
I think her ass.
Oh no, I'm sorry. That's what I meant to say. Boobs and ass.
Right.
That's the best boobs and ass.
You know, I actually liked her.
You know who really shined in all
she
this?
was really great in her fighting sequences, though.
Those are some fantastic fight sequences.
To be honest, I thought that fight sequence was probably the best fight sequence out of the whole movie.
Absolutely, it was.
Oh, easily out of the whole movie.
And
It's
was,
like one of the
You
best
talking about
ones
with Scarlett Johansson?
Yeah.
Scarlett
Yeah.
Johansson
It's the best
as
ones
Black
I've seen
Widow.
in probably in a year
Well, it
or
was
so.
really inventive martial arts and the way they filmed it, and you were like, I want to see more of this character doing this type of stuff.
Which is another
And that's how we
problem.
got Elektra.
Which is another problem, because this isn't a Black Widow movie. This is
Yeah.
an Iron Man movie, and I honestly was hoping to be as excited watching Iron Man do his thing, especially with War Machine. But I didn't get that so much. I got little hints of it, but I'm like, I'm ready for these guys to really go at it. And this movie needs to be another hour long for me to, get more of that. But
I don't
doesn't deliver.
I don't think Scarlett Johansson was the strongest character, but
She wasn't.
I'd be damned if I look at Scarlett Johansson and right when you think she's that girl, right when you say she can't get no finer, she finds something to wear that just puts her ass out a little bit more. You're like, Jesus Christ, girl, you're killing me.
Yeah,
I salute her ass, I salute her breast, I salute
every
suit
scene,
she's in.
it's just building, and that moment when Tony Stark goes, I want one. Can I have one? You're going, yeah, me too.
Yeah,
Where do I sign?
And she is another Avengers drop-in. She's a character from the comics. What's her name? Natasha Romanoff, who is
The Black Widow.
The Black Widow.
And to me, it's like I still like this movie, but it misses a lot of opportunities. And one big one is that the character in the comic books is Russian, and then you have a villain who's Russian.
Yeah, I didn't understand
here's
that
a perfect
at all.
chance to play these two things off of each other, and they don't take it.
I was waiting for them to go there. I was like, oh, this is going to be good because these two things are going to tie together, and it will make sense for them to both be in the same movie. And they're like, wait, what just happened? Why would you really not see that? And there's a lot of this film that feels like a lot of separate parts that no one found a way to nestle comfortably with each other.
Yeah.
And that's really, I think, the biggest problem with this movie is that it feels like a bunch of sequences, a bunch of parts to an unfinished story, and maybe that's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
it's an unfinished Iron Man.
This Iron Man should have been like an Iron Man TV show.
Well,
Maybe if it was in episodes, I'd like it even more.
And you know something? Another character that I did like was Justin Hammer. Played by
Sam Rockwell.
Sam Rockwell, when he came in, I mean, he played it kind of geeky and kind of creepy, but I like that about him. I mean,
that's what Sam Rockwell does.
He does that well. Without him being any kind of, I mean, he's, like I say, he's a counter-industrialist to Tony Stark, but he has no powers except being an asshole. And I was like, wow, this guy is probably not as much of an asshole as Tony Stark is, and I like that about him.
He kind of was in his own.
Yeah. I mean, he's a villain nonetheless.
But the problem is like he's an egocentric asshole, super rich asshole, but he doesn't have the skills to back it up.
Yeah.
Stark, talks a lot of shit, but then he's like, well, here, and they're like, oh, well, okay.
I guess I just felt bad for him because I felt like Tony Stark, he was such an asshole that whenever he came around, this guy Justin Hammer, he's like, yeah, bitch, don't you wish you had what I had?
Yeah, right.
You ain't shit.
No, you're right. Yeah,
but they make you like I felt that too. And Sam Rockwell as Justin Hammer, he was great when he was creepy or just incompetent or kind of an asshole. But then the longer he goes on, the more he becomes kind of a boob almost to the point of where like, wait, this guy's too incompetent for the government to really be relied on.
How's he supposed to be a threat later? Which he is in the books. He's most definitely a major threat later. It's like,
he's a character
this guy
in the book that like he's in several comics, right?
Oh yeah, he's a long time running character, but it's like you've made him incompetent to the point that he is just here for comic relief.
Which I thought that's what made him not an effective villain enough for me to like wonder. Okay, now scratching my head, like who is the real villain here?
Like I said, I'm telling you, it's Tony Stark. They looked at this movie and they said it's man versus himself is what's going on here.
It's
and
Christian
that's how
Slater in my own worst enemy.
That's how they rationalized making no strong villain here. They're like, Tony Stark is his own worst enemy.
Yeah, and the thing is, like I said about the first film, I thought that movie suffered from a weak villain, and I have to admit that the second film it has that same problem. It really suffers from a lack of a real villain.
Well, you know what? No, it's funny because they said, okay, we got a great villain in this one. we just don't use him that much.
Yeah,
We're going to put his ass.
No,
They actually,
yeah.
he's a cool ass villain, Mickey Rourke, and they actually put him in a laboratory for the middle of the movie, complete with wearing nerdy glasses and working on little shit.
Him
Like,
and his
don't forget
assistant.
the cockatiel.
Yeah,
he gave him a bird.
Yeah,
They
him and
stole
his
Beretta's
assistant.
bird.
Yeah, him and his assistant, fucking bird, who's wearing a lab suit. Like, actually, you see the bird actually putting the robots together. That's kind of interesting. I was like, wow.
Yeah, all of a
Does
sudden,
this happen in the Avengers, Leon?
all of a sudden that Jafo and Iago.
Yeah, I was just pissed because it was a parrot in the Avengers.
Yeah.
So I'm a bit of a canon whore, I know.
Well, you know what, man? I'll go ahead and give my rating. As much as I'm complaining about this movie, I did enjoy it. The thing is that where the first Iron Man was a summer movie with a great character and a great story up until probably its climax, this one, like a lot of sequels, is just a good summer movie. You know what I mean? It's a good summer special effects movie. Nothing special about it. I'll give it a matinee.
I was going to say.
I don't know. Wait, everybody's looking. I was like, what's I looking at? Oh, sorry.
Waiting for the other shoe to drop. You're like, come on, you know you want it.
No, the suspense is killing you.
Yeah, no, this is like the very definition of sequelitis in some ways. I hate that word, but here it's if the shoe fits, and then it drops. But there's so much stuff here that I do like, and I admit a lot of that is just me being a huge dork. I've never fucked that definition, but there is a lot of strength to this, and there's certainly enough to say it's an entertaining film, despite some serious flaws, especially more in comparison to the first one than anything else. I still have to give this a matinee as well.
Huh. Interesting. Well, maybe I liked it a little bit better than you guys. I mean, I'm not denying anything you said. Matter of fact, I said most of those things myself. All those flaws are here. It's just that, when I weigh it, there is a lot more positive. I mean, the things you go to a summer film for, the things you pay full price to go see during the summer, it has all those elements. It's just, it's whereas the first Iron Man was like a movie that really bordered on, or if not, was a better than sex, because it was like, wow, this movie has so many things except the wow. It just doesn't have that thing that makes me like have to come back and see it. But if I paid full price for it, I wouldn't leave feeling ripped off. So I'd say full price.
All right. Well, I agree with a lot what you guys said. My only thing is that, I was expecting a little bit more. But what I did see, I did have fun with. Yeah, I wish there was more Iron Man instead of Tony Stark. But
that's because you're a robot.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to see. Well, that's I mean, he's the fucking money shot of the whole movie. I only see him in the beginning and the end.
I agree with you there.
But but other than that, no, the action sequences were really fun to watch. And I did have a good time with this, despite all my complaints. So I'm gonna give this a matinee.
All right, then.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, were you guys kind of upset that they fucking deleted that one scene that they kept showing all the time, where
It's weird that- I know what you're talking about.
where that kid hanging out in the Stark Labs, he gets turned into a Dr. Pepper machine? Was that? Why did they cut that out? I thought that was a whole other subplot they were going to get into.
That should have been the end of the movie. That should have been like after the credits, where it's like they cut to a Dr. Pepper machine. You hear.
That would have been.
Or even better if it grows up around him and then it like starts spewing out blood.
Yeah, you can hear his bones crunching in there. It's just transforming.
Tony Stark tries to get a Dr. Pepper and a hand comes out.
You guys are thinking with your heads. That would have been a much cooler ending than realizing that, oh, look, in the dirt there, it's
Or if it had been Gwyneth Paltrow instead of a little kid.
Oh yeah.
Hey, shut up, man. I love Gwyneth Paltrow.
I'm gonna cut that out. What we just said, no, so we won't spoil it for anybody. But yeah, stay after the credits for some bullshit.
Mr. Stark displays textbook narcissism. Agreed?